Hi there, welcome back to Riella's Army of Dolls, where I talk all things fashion doll. Now, I've recently got hold of the new Licca doll from the stylish Licca collection, all the way from Japan. And I have been super excited about her since I heard about her release at the start of this year. It's got me really thinking about my Takara doll collection, especially my Licca ones, and the fact that, dolls that aren't from America are just often not as well known, not as well considered, and yet there are some incredible dolls coming out of Asia. These are all Japanese dolls. Licca is actually one of the longest running fashion dolls in the world. She was first released in 1967 and was a Japanese competitor to Barbie. And she very quickly overtook Barbie in Japan and became the most popular doll there. And she has been being released in lots of different forms and lots of different ways for all that time. The original Licca was actually quite different from the modern Licca, who you see most of up here. She was a smaller doll and she had quite a different face sculpt. Now these two here, these are reproductions of the original Licca, but it's easy to see that they have quite a different face sculpt if we compare her with the standard modern Licca face. You can see has a sort of rounder, softer profile. Not only that, but these dolls are quite a lot smaller. If you compare this size, you'll see that the original Licca was actually quite a small doll. The modern Licca is considered to be about 8.5 inches tall, whereas the older Licca, you can see, has maybe 1.5 inches less in height, so about a 7-inch doll. These ones are reproductions of a first generation Licca, whereas I think we're up to about fourth generation now. One of the releases that I have really liked was this Neo Licca release, who came out quite a few years ago now, but reused the original Licca face sculpt, but on a more modern, taller, and more adult body. And I have several of those and have really enjoyed them in my collection. Now, most Liccas historically have been made for children and for play, but more recently it's clearly become known that this isn't just a doll for children. This is a doll that adult collectors are buying. And I have absolutely loved, and I have quite a few, even more than that are shown up here, of the stylish doll collection who are actually promoted and sold for adults. And these dolls, so here are a couple of examples. These dolls again have a slightly taller body, and their body has a larger bust, so they are a little bit more adult, because the original Licca, she was only meant to be 11 years old. So these ones have a larger bust. They are aiming at the adult audience, and they do cost a little bit more. That said, Licca dolls, if you get them over here or in America, they actually can be quite expensive. But in Japan, you're only looking at for these dolls, comparably about $100 US. And for a Playline Licca, and both are still being released, so we can get adult collector dolls. We can also get Playline dolls at the moment. A Playline doll only costs about $20 US. So again, very much in line and competing with a Barbie. When I saw this doll come out, I was especially excited because the promotional pictures all highlighted and talked about the fact that she has a poseable body. Now, no Licca dolls have genuinely poseable body. They have limbs which are sort of rubbery and bend. This one, in the promo pictures, actually showed those limbs with joints that make the doll pose really beautifully and display nicely. And in the promotional material, I thought it was really interesting that it was actually talking about how the purpose of that was to allow adults to pose her really beautifully for photography. And it really highlighted the fact that this series is a series of dolls who are promoted actively to adults. Now, my doll, you can probably tell straight away, is not brand new. That was not on purpose, and actually she cost more even though she wasn't brand new. The reason is that these dolls are just really hard to get if you are not in Japan. So they're generally sold directly from the Takara Tomy website. That website is all in Japanese. It's quite tricky to order from. So instead, I got her from one of the secondhand platforms in Japan. I got her for a reasonably good deal, but note that this doll was very popular, as are a lot of the stylish doll collection dolls. and they can cost quite a bit on the secondary market. So you need to look carefully if you want one of these. So the Photogenic Gothic Noir style liquor comes in a pretty unexciting box. It's not terribly large, and to be honest, I feel like they missed a trick in terms of a collector doll. But that said, this doll is made to take it out of her box and to photograph. So I guess that's part of what they're thinking. This isn't something I feel like really needs to be kept. It doesn't really add to the excitement of the doll. My Licca was not brand new. I did buy her second hand. So the person has previously taken her partly out of the box, and that means she's just slipped out. Her face is pretty beautiful. All the modern Liccas, except for those neo Liccas, have the exact same face sculpt. It's very sweet. It's very rounded. It's got an anime styling and an anime paint style, which I think is really nice and adds to that idea that she is Japanese. I particularly like this doll's grey platinum hair. It is a really lovely style, and she has 2 long ringlets down the back. That said, there's nothing about her that screams, amazing. She's a very beautiful doll, and she's similar to many other Liccas I have. I like the face very, very much, but nonetheless, I guess maybe she, I'd love something maybe even more exciting. Maybe that gothic styling could come through in the makeup a little bit more, but she is very pretty. Her outfit, she's partly wearing it. I like what I see so far, but I don't love it. I really like the black and red colour scheme. You can see this sort of claret red on the inside of her skirt, which I think is lovely. I feel like there could be a little more of it. The white goes with that gothic style, bringing in a little bit of the Victorian look, but it doesn't, excite me because it's a little bit more ordinary. In the box, there are lots more pieces. So the top looks awesome. It is 2-piece. It's got like a bustier and a little over jacket. I love that. I'm not sure what this one is. I'll see that in a bit. And we've got some gorgeous accessories. The purse in particular with a little rose on it just looks awesome. And there are some shoes there as well. Now, Liccas, like many fashion dolls, have, very plasticky shoes, but often the stylish doll collection ones have just a little bit more to it. So they often have, a second color or a little bit of fabric ribbon, which we can see here. They're just slightly higher quality than a standard doll. Before I dress her in all her little pieces, I'm actually going to undress her, because the thing that is really exciting about this doll is her body. And even as I start to undress her, we can see those bending knees. This is the first Licca ever to have this body, and that's the thing that I am most excited to have a look at. So I've undressed 3 different Liccas here from 3 very different releases. So this is the standard release playline Licca body. Do note that nowadays there is also a taller Licca body that's, more like an 18-year-old, I guess taking from the Takara Jenny body, but this is the standard release playline Licca. This is the previous stylish doll collection body, and this is the photogenic stylish Licca. So we can see the differences here. This doll has a more defined bust than the standard one. She has a joint which is more at the hips rather than at the waistline. So that allows her to do sort of slightly more natural bending rather than just turning. And she's also just got slightly more defined shape to her body, skinnier legs. And one thing that's a little bit harder to see from this angle is that she has larger, more defined fashion feet, so that she can wear high heel fashion shoes. So this body is designed to appeal more to an adult market. She's obviously an older, slightly more defined Licca who can wear more fashionable clothes, and for whom those clothes are going to show off her figure a little bit more. In terms of the overall aesthetic, we can see that this doll, the photogenic body, attempts to maintain that aesthetic. So we've got very similar body shape. Yeah, in terms of the definition of the waist. She looks a little bit skinnier to me. I don't know if that's just, you know, the plastic that's used, but just to the eye, she looks a tiny bit skinnier. The legs and everything form roughly the same shape and size, but we can see that there is more defined jointing. So we've got an ankle joint, a knee joint. The hip joint is quite different, allowing for more of your ball. This doll's really not splitting her legs at all, so this allows for that outward posture. The shoulder joints have actually got me really intrigued, because when I read the information about this doll and it said the new body would allow her to do lots of different forms, including, for example, shrugging her shoulders, I thought, ha ha ha, what doll can shrug their shoulders? But now that I look at her shoulder joint, I can see they've actually put a lot of work into that. It's very different from probably any other doll's shoulder joint that I can remember seeing, as it's got a double joint. It's actually got a ball in there, and then the joint on the outside, allowing it to really fully swivel. She's also got a wrist joint. Now, one thing that it mentioned and that I saw in the appearance is that the elbow joints, there were no elbow joints. She has the same arm plastic as the original Licca, who can bend her arms and hold a pose by bending the plastic. Now, honestly, I'm not sure about that decision. It is much harder to bend plastic than to bend a joint. And actually, although, you know, I think the idea is that it's meant to allow it to look beautiful in photographs because there's no, you know, obvious joint. But if you have a look at that, I mean, that's really not a realistic bend. She forms this weird curve, whereas the elbow joint really does, you know, a real elbow joint, it forms a point. It doesn't form this round curve. So in terms of realism, I think they've missed a trick by not putting a joint in. The description also said that the wrist joint would allow her to take on realistic poses, but not you know, not fake ones. She wouldn't do more than a human, whereas I feel like it actually is only holding a very slight pose, not much at all. That said, her knee joint is quite good, I would say. This one is probably my favourite. I reckon she can hold very much a real pose with that knee joint. Not, you know, way more than real like some dolls, but it's fairly close to what a human can do. In terms of the ankle joint, I get confused by ankle joints with dolls that have fashion feet, as, you know, it's kind of loses the reality when you've got that foot shape. But nonetheless, you know, it is quite, it works. So I guess that's a positive. I like the shoulder ones. I'm really liking these. They're quite fun to play with. She can do all sorts of things with that, and I think they are the most successful of all the joints. It's fairly unique. I've never seen this before, and although I'm not sure, I would say it looks like she's shrugging her shoulders, she does get a really, really good range of motion. So I'm looking forward to posing her and seeing how she works a little bit later. The previous one, I mean, it's very limited what pose she can do. Her arms go up and down. The elbows and knees do bend, so the elbow is very similar, as you can see, but it's a kind of odd bend that they can do. And yeah, the knees don't go very far. So a lot of the promo pictures of this doll showed her sitting down, because obviously with her new legs, that's a lot of what she can do. Yeah, she can pose, but she can sit in much more realistic ways. So let's have a look at her fully dressed now. Overall, I really like her outfit, with just a few caveats to that. The hat is actually way cuter than I expected. It fits really nicely onto her head and has this little mesh on top. I like the fact that I didn't realize that the outfit is actually like multi-wear. I should have spotted it in the visuals and photos of this doll, but the white shirt is actually an alternative top. And I like that because I said when I was looking at it before that the white didn't quite do it for me. This is Gothic Noir. I mean, Noir is black and everything should be black, and it is now. And that's awesome, with just a few little touches to that. We've got, you know, lots of different pieces she can wear. So the little corset can be on or off, but I did think it looked better on. The purse is actually not quite as nice as I was expecting because it is just a little piece of plastic with a rose on top. And I know it's tiny and maybe it would be hard to do, but I feel like it should open. You know, this is a relatively expensive collector doll. I feel like the purse should open. The skirt is nice. I like the claret colour inside, and it matches the soles of her shoes and the colour of the rose on the bag. But personally, with this kind of outfit, I would go for a full length skirt if I could. But I guess that's just me, so that's personal choice. The hands are sculpted very nicely to hold onto the bag, but I can't help thinking that for a nice variety of poses, this is a doll that could perhaps come with alternative hands. The other kind of weird thing that comes with this doll is the stand. You can see that's the stand. Okay, thank you. And here are the instructions. I'm going to be able to figure it out. But nonetheless, everything in Japanese with what is actually quite a complicated process is going to be a little challenging. So just going to say it as it is, that stand was way too complicated. I did manage to get it together, but there were a couple of points where I was just like, what? That doesn't go. Turning those screws took me ages, and I really don't see any value in this joint bit in the middle. I guess it's meant to be so that, you know, you can bend the stand and make different poses, but it didn't actually seem that that was of any value to helping the doll stand differently. I do like that it has two different connectors. So this one is meant to hold the leg so that she can stand. That's probably particularly good if she's wearing pants or if you want to put her in some kind of unique pose, whereas this one that I've got at the moment goes between her legs, and that's pretty good and solid for keeping her standing up. I will say I prefer it, you know, now that it's made, to the little plastic foot stands, because those ones are quite difficult to put dolls in if they're wearing, you know, different shoes and they can only do one very, very basic pose in them. So this is better now, but I really don't think it should come like this. That was challenging. And I love her shoes, and I was really impressed by those because they went on super duper easily and neatly, and they're really firmly on. And I found with lots of other Licca dolls that I actually end up losing their shoes because they're a little bit loose and wobbly and they fall off, and I think these ones are going to be fantastic. She is a beautiful doll. The clothing doesn't actually fit. I didn't mention this before, but the top sits up a tiny bit. It doesn't fit quite as nicely as I hoped it would. That is a pity, but it is really nice. The only thing I might do is make her a long black skirt so that this can be a very Victorian Gothic feel. What I'm looking forward to now is seeing how she poses and whether I can take those beautiful photographs with her. Is a really beautiful doll. I mean, I love all the Liccas. I love the face. I do really like the body. It's something that's, you know, her body's always been simple, but really pretty and easy to display, but very low posability, and that has always been a problem. So what I love most about this doll is that she demonstrates an evolution. Takara has actively seen what their collectors want, and they've gone a long way to addressing it. And I think that overall, they've done a fantastic job. There are some things I would change. I love her shoulder joints. I really like her knee joints. I think for a doll her size, they are actually really, really nicely done. I think some of the other joints, particularly her arms, could do with some work. And I don't just mean the elbows. I think that because they've opted for that flexible plastic, that's why the wrist joints don't have as much flexibility either. So I think that really, if I were to make the next style in this line, the main thing that I would be addressing is the elbow joints and the plastic in the arms, because I think that would solve the issue of the wrists as well. The shoulder joints, however, are some of the best shoulder joints I have ever used. And what I would say, and I'm actually quite surprised to say this after looking at it, she actually might be my favourite Licca so far. I have lots of them. I love the Stylish Doll collection, and I also love the Neo Licca. And you know what? She might be the prettiest. And I'm incredibly surprised to say that because I wasn't expecting that. I knew that I was excited by her body, but actually looking at her as a complete package, they have nailed it. And apart from fixing up those joints, I say, yay, Takara, well done. I want to see more of these. Please let me know what you think of this doll, if you like her as much as I do. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please hit that button now.